Thank you for tuning in. We are a church located in South Korea called Church in the Lord. My name is Daniel, and I will be translating the messages we have uploaded in Korean to English for all the English-speaking members out there. The first message we're going to cover is part of the Sermon on the Mount #1 series, and we're going to be discussing Matthew chapter 5, verse 3 and 5, which talks about the poor in spirit and the meek. Verse 3 reads, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Verse 5 talks about, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." So today we're going to be discussing what it means to be poor in spirit and what it means to be meek and how it applies to our lives. This is a chart that shows how from where you are today you can gain the heavens and the earth, as discussed in Matthew chapter 5. This starts off with two beliefs or two minds. So what does it mean to have two beliefs? It's the difference between following God's will and following your own will. Worshipping God versus worshipping worldly materials. There are two worlds, A and B. You're stuck in the middle. You have your foot in one door and the other. You're not being fully committed to one side or the other. This is what it means to have two beliefs. Now you want to transition into being poor in spirit. What does it mean to be poor in spirit? It means to empty yourself, to be cleansed. Being empty is what it means to be poor in spirit. So how do you achieve that? Psalms 51:17, shavar, which means to break, a broken spirit. You need to break the beliefs that you have in order for you to achieve emptiness. So once you have achieved poor in spirit or emptiness, then you can fill yourself with beliefs of Jesus and faith, gentleness, humbleness. That's the next step. And once you have achieved that, then you can gain the heavens and the earth. Now let's take a look at some of these verses in detail. If you look at James chapter 4, verse 8, "Come near to God and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded." Double-minded is actually referring back to the two beliefs and minds we discussed, how we need to purify ourselves and empty ourselves in order to achieve poor in spirit. And if you look at Psalm 51:17, "My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, you, God, will not despise." The broken spirit is telling you you need to empty yourself so you can make space for God to fill you. Now let's talk about faith. Faith is very important in Christianity. If you look at James chapter 2, verse 5, "Listen, my dear brothers and sisters, has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised those who love him?" If you look at the poor in the eyes of the world, this is talking about the secular world from that point of view. And if you look at rich in faith, what is faith? Faith is ultimately hope. Hope that we will inherit the kingdom he promised. And with this hope, we are able to gain faith. And with that faith, we are able to become rich in our hearts with faith. And this is what that's referring to here. And who gains this faith? This faith is given to those who love him. So let's discuss those who love him. It is clearly stated in the Bible. If you look at 1 John chapter 5, verse 3, "In fact, this is love for God, to keep his command, and his commands are not burdensome." So it states, for us to love God is to keep his command. So let's dig deeper. What is his command? 1 John chapter 3, 23. "And this is his command, to believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and to love one another as he commanded us." So if we look at it, by loving one another, we are able to keep his command, and by keeping his command, we love God. So loving one another means we are loving God. It's all connected. And if you look at the next verse, 1 John chapter 3, 24, "The one who keeps God's commands lives in him and he in them. And this is how we know that he lives in us. We know it by the Spirit he gave us. Bible is very simple. Messages are all related and all connected. By loving one another, by loving our neighbors, we are able to love God. In the diagram shown previously, we stated once we make room in our spirit, we need to fill it with Jesus' mindset and beliefs. Let's take a look at Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 to 30. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. Gentle and humble in heart. This is what we need to fill ourselves with once we are empty. Let's take a look at Philippians chapter 2, verse 5 to 8. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Jesus Christ. This mindset is also referring to the gentle and humble in heart mindset. So if we take a look at the diagram, once we empty ourselves, once we cleanse ourselves, we make room to be filled with gentleness, humbleness, and faith. And by doing this, by loving each other, we are able to gain the heavenly and earthly grounds or plans he has for us. This is the message that he's sending us. To reiterate the message in words, shatter or shavar, to break our hearts full of doubts and greed, then replace it with poor spirit. Enriched in faith, let us be humble and filled with gentleness to inherit the kingdom of heaven and earth. I hope these words have an impact in our lives. I hope we can love God by loving our neighbors and live according to his words. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you all.